Have you ever felt like global events are just this complex, interconnected web? It feels incredibly difficult sometimes to keep up, to really understand what's happening beneath the surface. It's easy to feel overwhelmed by, just the sheer volume of information. That's precisely where we come in. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating and, well, increasingly important global partnership. It's known as the Quad. Now, if you've heard the name, maybe in headlines or something, but you aren't quite sure what it is or why it matters or even how it operates, then you're definitely in for a treat. We've pulled together a stack of sources that give us a pretty comprehensive picture.
Yeah, and what we're focusing on today is this unique, evolving, and I'd say highly strategic collaboration. It's between four key democratic nations: India, the United States, Japan, and Australia. It's a group that actually started from a, well, truly unexpected place, which it's really grown into something far more significant than, its humble beginnings might suggest.
Right. So our mission in this deep dive is to truly unpack the Quad. We want to explore its surprising origins, its core shared purpose, and the really wide array of areas where these four nations are actively working together. By the end, you'll have a quick yet, I think, thorough understanding of why this group exists and, frankly, its profound implications for the global stage.
And what's truly fascinating here, and I think often misunderstood, is how this flexible, non-binding partnership, it's not a traditional rigid alliance, has become such a pivotal player. In ensuring stability and addressing complex global challenges, particularly within the economically vital Indo-Pacific region. It's really a model for 21st century diplomacy in a way.
Okay, let's unpack this then, starting right at the very beginning. Because like you said, the Quad's origins are not what most people would expect. It actually began not with some grand geopolitical strategy, but with a massive humanitarian crisis.
Exactly. Yeah, you have to picture this. The devastating Indian Ocean tsunami back in 2004. A terrible catastrophe. And this event, it brought these four nations together, not really as political allies at first, but simply out of necessity to coordinate aid delivery, search and rescue, humanitarian relief operations. What began as this sort of ad hoc coalition for disaster response, well, it gradually started to take on more strategic shape around 2007. That's when they initiated their first formal dialogue.
But it wasn't exactly a straight line from there, was it? It seems to have kind of, well, it faded for a bit, a whole decade, actually. What factors led to that dormancy? And I guess what ultimately triggered its revival?
That's a really critical observation. It did lose momentum, for about a decade. It was largely due to a mix of, let's say, diplomatic hesitations and evolving geopolitical calculations among the member states themselves. But the Quad was emphatically revived in 2017. This was primarily amid growing concerns about, well, China's expanding influence and its increasingly assertive posture across the Indo-Pacific region. Since then, it's really evolved from just an ad hoc dialogue platform into a proper multilateral strategic forum addressing a, frankly, wide array of regional and global issues.
That's a crucial point, because when people hear four nations working together, I think a military alliance like NATO often comes to mind first. How does the Quad truly differentiate itself from that kind of traditional pact?
Right, and it explicitly isn't a military alliance in the traditional sense. That's absolutely key to its unique strength, actually. The Quad exists as a flexible, non-binding partnership. It's rooted in shared values, democracy, the rule of law, freedom of navigation, and a commitment to a rules-based international order. Its motivation really is securing the Indo-Pacific against unilateral actions that threaten regional stability or undermine sovereign decision-making, a nation's right to choose its own path without external coercion. Our sources specifically highlight concerns about actors like China, whose expansion in the South China Sea, for example, or coercive tactics regarding Taiwan and along the Himalayan border have caused considerable alarm.
Okay, so it sounds like they're walking a very fine line here, responding to these strategic anxieties without directly confronting anyone. How do they manage that delicate balance in practice, and what are the tangible areas where they're actually working together?
That's a fantastic question, and it really speaks to the Quad's ingenuity. At its core, a primary focus is maritime security in the Indo-Pacific. This is one of the world's most economically vital regions, right? Accounts for the majority of global trade routes. And these routes are increasingly vulnerable to militarization, piracy, and also those subtle, often deniable actions below the threshold of open conflict, what we call gray zone tactics.
Gray zone tactics, like what?
Well, things like swarming, fishing fleets used assertively, or cyber intrusions, actions that are hard to attribute definitively but still cause problems. So to address this, The Quad launched initiatives like the Indo-Pacific Maritime Domain Awareness Program, or IPMDA. This allows for essentially real-time tracking and monitoring of illegal activities, like unreported fishing. It's especially helpful for small island nations that have limited surveillance capabilities of their own. And then you have naval exercises, such as the Malabar drills, which also enhance interoperability and, signal a shared commitment to free and open seas.
That makes perfect sense, given the vastness and, like you said, strategic importance of the ocean there. But beyond those, let's say, traditional security issues, the pandemic exposed all sorts of new vulnerabilities globally. How did the Quad's focus evolve in response to those unprecedented health challenges?
Oh, the COVID-19 pandemic became a major catalyst. Absolutely. It starkly exposed the fragilities of, global health systems and supply chains, didn't it? So in response, the Quad initiated the Quad Vaccine Partnership. The aim was to ensure equitable vaccine distribution across the Indo-Pacific. India, actually, with its robust manufacturing and logistics capabilities, played a truly pivotal role in that effort. And this cooperation has since expanded beyond just vaccines. Now it encompasses broader pandemic preparedness, things like building resilient health infrastructure and collaborative research in disease surveillance and emergency response systems.
Wow, that's a truly massive undertaking. Requires incredible coordination, I imagine. And speaking of vulnerabilities, what about economic resilience? Especially with all the supply chain disruptions we've seen in recent years.
Right, that's become another critical pillar as well. Those recent disruptions, particularly in crucial sectors like semiconductors, rare earth minerals, pharmaceuticals, they've made it abundantly clear that overdependence on just one or two sources poses a significant strategic risk. So the Quad's efforts, like building a semiconductor supply chain contingency network or promoting critical infrastructure development through this Ports of the Future initiative, they're designed to counteract these economic vulnerabilities. These efforts also aim to promote fair and transparent investments in developing countries, particularly in South and Southeast Asia, kind of offering a robust alternative to other large-scale initiatives that might, come with hidden strings attached.
It really sounds like they're building out an incredibly broad and interconnected web of cooperation, a truly comprehensive toolkit, as you put it, for global challenges. And this toolkit you're describing, does it also extend to something as, universally impactful as climate change? Because that's certainly impacting everyone, but maybe especially those island nations in the Indo-Pacific.
You're absolutely right. Climate change, environmental sustainability, energy transitions, they're equally important pieces of this puzzle. The Quad fully recognizes that climate impacts disproportionately affect Indo-Pacific island nations and coastal communities. It's undeniable. So they've supported concrete projects for renewable energy integration, sustainable infrastructure, developing early warning systems for climate disasters. India, for instance, launched a satellite-based climate monitoring portal specifically to help smaller nations better prepare for environmental crises. And Australia and Japan have invested heavily in clean technology research and coastal adaptation financing. This really underscores the Quad's commitment to what we call global public goods, things that benefit everyone, extending far beyond just traditional hard security concerns.
And in our increasingly digital world, where geopolitical competition now extends deeply into cyberspace, artificial intelligence, even quantum computing, how are they approaching technology governance and digital resilience?
Indeed. It's a key battleground, no doubt about it. The group has initiated frameworks to foster innovation, develop common technology standards, and build secure digital ecosystems. The Quad Cybersecurity Partnership, for example, aims to protect critical infrastructure, counter disinformation campaigns, and strengthen digital supply chains. These initiatives are really crucial for protecting democratic institutions and, frankly, ensuring technological sovereignty for like-minded states in what's become a highly competitive digital landscape.
So from digital security all the way back to disaster relief, it sounds like they're covering a huge amount of ground, creating a truly multi-layered approach to regional stability.
They are, yeah. Humanitarian assistance and disaster relief, or HADR as it's known, remains another critical dimension. And that brings it right back to their origins, doesn't it? Given the region's susceptibility to cyclones, tsunamis, floods, the Quad has developed joint logistics capabilities and early response mechanisms. This includes things like pre-positioning supplies, extensive training for emergency personnel, and establishing rapid deployment protocols. These consistent efforts, they don't just save lives, they also deepen trust and cooperation among regional communities.
It's almost counterintuitive, though, isn't it, that something so informal, without a formal treaty or a central headquarters could be so powerful and effective. How does that unique model work in practice? Why is that actually a strength, maybe, rather than a weakness, like some critics suggest?
That's a great question, and I think it's key to understanding the Quad's true strategic genius, if you want to call it that. Unlike traditional alliances, its cooperation model relies on consensus and shared interests, not a rigid, blinding treaty. And this flexibility is precisely its strength. It enables it to adapt with incredible speed to emerging challenges. Critics often argue, yes, that this lack of formal structure is a weakness. But our sources highlight that this very informality enables agility. It bypasses bureaucratic hurdles, and it fosters innovation. It allows for swift decisions on emerging challenges, whether that's a health crisis, a technological disruption, or a maritime incident. It's been aptly described, I think, as a diplomatic toolkit for the 21st century, one custom designed for complexity and uncertainty.
And it's not trying to replace or exclude existing regional groups like ASEAN or the Pacific Islands Forum, is it? It actually complements them.
Exactly. That's a crucial point. The Quad has actively expanded its reach by engaging with other vital regional groupings, ASEAN, the Pacific Islands Forum, the Indian Ocean Rim Association. These extensive engagements really demonstrate that the Quad is not exclusionary. It, in fact, complements and reinforces existing regional architectures. There's also, interestingly, a philosophical underpinning here, sometimes mentioned from India's civilizational philosophy of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which essentially means the world is one family. This spirit of inclusivity, cooperation, and respect for sovereignty, it informs the group's initiatives and outreach, and it stands in pretty clear contrast, arguably, to more authoritarian models of development and governance.
It sounds like they're navigating a very, very delicate strategic landscape, balancing power, upholding norms, all without being overtly confrontational. How do they manage that nuanced approach in practice?
Well, the strategic environment of the Indo-Pacific has undergone significant transformation. That's clear. Our sources note China's rapid military modernization, its increasing cyber and space capabilities, and its use of economic coercion tactics. These have created a pressing need for some kind of collective balancing. The Quad exists as a, let's say, non-confrontational yet firm mechanism. The goal is to ensure that power is exercised with responsibility and that regional autonomy is preserved. So while its actions are not explicitly directed against any one country, its very existence does signal a collective readiness to uphold international norms and deter coercive behavior.
And for each of the member nations, there's a strong, tangible, strategic incentive for being part of this, right? It's not just pure altruism. What does each country stand to gain from participating?
Oh, you're absolutely right. Beyond the collective good, the Quad holds significant strategic and, frankly, domestic political importance for each member. For India, it affirms its rising stature as a responsible regional power, and it significantly strengthens its maritime capabilities. That's key for them. For the United States, it reinforces its strategic pivot to Asia and helps build robust, reliable alliances beyond traditional blocs like NATO. For Japan and Australia, it provides a vital framework for safeguarding their critical economic and security interests in a rapidly shifting regional order. So, in essence, the Quad allows each country to amplify its own strategic posture through collective, purpose-driven action.
It's abundantly clear, then, the Quad is a truly multifaceted entity. It's weaving together everything from humanitarian aid and disaster relief right through to maritime security, health security, economic resilience, climate change, and even advanced technology governance. It really is, as we've discussed, a partnership of purpose, not just power, focusing on global public goods in a way we maybe haven't seen quite like this before.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the Quad's very informality and flexibility, far from being a weakness, as some critics might suggest, is precisely its maybe stealth superpower. It enables unparalleled agility and swift decisions in a rapidly changing world. It functions without a treaty, without a central headquarters, relying purely on consensus and shared interests. And crucially, as you mentioned, it complements, rather than excludes, existing regional architectures like ASEAN and the Pacific Islands Forum.
So this group fundamentally amplifies the strategic significance for each member nation. It solidifies India's rising stature, reinforces the U.S.'s pivot to Asia, and strengthens Japan's and Australia's ability to safeguard their economic and security interests. All amplified through collective action that is, well, truly greater than the sum of its parts.
And this raises an important question, doesn't it, about how democracies can come together effectively to shape a more balanced, secure, and hopefully humane world order in this tumultuous 21st century. The Quad exemplifies an agile, principled, inclusive, and forward-looking vision of diplomacy. It stands as a kind of bulwark against authoritarian influence, but through constructive engagement, not necessarily direct confrontation.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Think about how this kind of fluid, purpose-driven cooperation could perhaps apply to other global challenges far beyond just the Indo-Pacific. Could this model, this diplomatic toolkit for the 21st century, which seems customized for complexity and uncertainty, could this be the future of international relations? Could it inspire similar solutions across the globe? Something to think about.